Good afternoon. I'm on site here at Embedded World 2022, and joining me today is Sam McCarthy, Head of EMEA Sales at Taoglas. So thank you very much for joining me today, Sam. So let's get started. With the increase in demand for navigation and positioning system applications, the requirement for more precise location abilities is obviously now more important than ever. However, integrating high-precision GNSS antennas into these applications can be daunting. So with that in mind, what new antenna solutions are you offering to serve IoT applications and other industries?
So one of the first products that we have released recently is our GPDF60. Traditionally in all applications at the end of the day for high-precision GNSS, you need a larger antenna. The problem with that often is traditionally an antenna is usually done by ceramic for patch antennas. So ceramic has a couple of disadvantages in that it is quite heavy and it is also relatively fragile, so to speak. So we actually created our own material called Taoglas. It's 40% lighter than traditional ceramic, and it's also able to withstand a lot more impact than a traditional ceramic. So this antenna here is actually a 60 by 60, but it's about 40% lighter than a traditional 50 by 50.
Okay.
So that's one aspect of the innovation that we bring to the high precision markets. Also, the integration of the antenna is extremely important. The placement of the antenna is important, and this can be very tricky for people who don't know the ins and the outs of the actual performance that they need for high precision.
Okay, fantastic. And how can you help companies overcome sort of the complexity and challenges? You know, some of them you've just mentioned. You know, how can you help them overcome those when they're looking to deliver IoT solutions?
So the first thing that we do as a company, and also through our partners like Digi-key, is we try to provide as much information online as possible. So our spec sheets are really next to none. Some of our spec sheets are 20 plus, 30 plus pages. If we look a little bit at the cellular side of things as well, what you will see in the spec sheets that you can access on the Digi-key site is that we've also done measurements at different ground planes. So here I have an eval board for our PA740, which is a cellular antenna. And it's very important because the actual antenna uses the ground plane to be able to resonate. Yeah. And if you cut the ground plane, which is what we do in our spec sheets, you will see that the performance actually decreases. So this means that the customers actually can see the influence that the influence that the size of their product will have on the performance of the antenna. And that is also extremely important for the US, where we have a huge amount of experience for achieving certification for cellular performance in the US. So we have three R&D labs throughout the US, in San Diego, in Florida, and in Minneapolis. And you know, this is what we do every day for the cellular point of view.
Brilliant, fantastic. And how can an engineer determine the best antenna for the application?
So the best antenna is a bit like a magic question, but in many ways it's a balancing point between what the engineer is actually trying to design. Like the best antenna for my watch is probably this antenna, but no one actually wants to put this antenna on their watch. So it really starts from the engineer designing the whole product from an RF point of view. So you have to see it from the antenna performance out and not the other way around, because the antenna performance and where you wish to sell, so going back to the cellular example of the US, that will dictate essentially how large you can make your product, or rather how small you can make your product. Everyone wants to make it smaller. So really it's looking at the size first, the size and the market and what is needed from the market. And then with our 700 plus standard products, we will have, you know, the best antenna to cover your needs.
Excellent, some great advice there, thank you. So what are some of the key factors in determining antenna performance?
Factor number one, ground plane. The longer you need a minimum ground plane, so about 90 millimeters for cellular performance. It's to do with the low bands. The second factor is also, for example, if we look at GNSS, it's to do with the clearance from metal for any antenna. But with GNSS, it's particularly important the clearance that the plastic cover of the product actually has to the antenna. If it's almost touching or touching the antenna, that's going to detune the antenna completely. we recommend about 20 millimeters, 15 to 20 millimeters as ideal. We can bring it down lower than that. We can actually then tune the patches for the customer so that it will actually be detuned and free space the antenna, but actually in the customer environment will be retuned into the frequencies that it needs to cover. But essentially that is one of the key factors to the integration point of view. Stay away from metal and be careful of how far your plastic cover is coming to the antenna. And then you'd be surprised, but don't put it under an LCD, don't put it under a battery. These things actually do happen. So sometimes there's no such thing as a silly question. Look at the information that we have on the Digi-key website. Call ourselves, contact us. We will be able to guide you in the right direction.
Some simple advice, but good
advice.
But,
yeah.
Okay, so let's bear 5G in mind. What are some of the most complex antenna design scenarios, and how can you help resolve them?
So for 5G, really the tricky part, there are two tricky parts, the higher frequencies and the lower frequencies. The problem with the higher frequencies, so when I say high, it's above, it's like 3.5 gigahertz or above. So traditionally, maybe just to say, LTE was about 698 megahertz to 2.7. So now 5G for cellular anyway is going up to 3.5 and at times going down to 400 megahertz. The problem with the 3.5 is essentially to do with the distance that will be covered. It's to do with what they call the link budget, how far the information will transmit. The higher the frequency, the more loss. So that's why your Wi-Fi, your 2.4 at home, you can't receive it upstairs. It's just to do with the frequency. And then the other problem is the lower frequencies. So the lower frequencies, they go through buildings very well, they go through everything very well, but then they require a larger ground plane. So and also for the 5G as well, the interaction as well between the module and the antenna is important. So we work very closely with the European module makers, and that's also a very important partnership for us. Yeah, so I think that's a quick overview of the overall 5G sort of challenges.
Brilliant, thank you. So let's talk now about the launch of your antenna and cable builders within Digikey. Can you walk us through sort of step by step how the process works?
Yeah, so for the cable builder, basically the customer can go on your website, they can select the cable type that they like. So we have about 15 different cables. The longer the cable needs to be, the thicker it will need to be. You can choose between 500 centimeters and I think about 5 meters. Then you can choose the left side connector and the right side connector. We carry all the main connectors. We have actually recently released our own FACRA range of connectors, including a mini quad FACRA. So that allows you to connect 4 cables into one connector, which is quite revolutionary in the industry. It just means that you can plug it in straight in. We have the board side obviously as well, and the antenna side. You can just mate the two of them very quickly. You don't need to mess around with 4 different cables. Then the actual building of the cable is done in Ireland in our office. Our headquarters is actually in Enniscorthy, which is near to Wexford, and the goods will then ship within 24 hours. So I guess you're able to build your own cable within 24 hours that will ship from Europe through this tool that is available on the Digi-key website. And then for the antenna, actually, I just realized it's for our external antennas and also our internal antennas, and it becomes very interesting for the likes of this flexible antenna, which is essentially also a cellular antenna. Sometimes a flexible antenna will be used in preference to an SMT because it allows you to take the antenna away from the PCB, so you can stick it essentially on the housing somewhere once it's not metal. and then what becomes important is the length of the cable. So there again, that's where the antenna builder comes in useful, in that you can build the cable to whatever length you need it to be. Now for this type of, it's rarely the case anyway, because as we said earlier, products are getting smaller and smaller and not the opposite. But with this type of cable, there is a limit. You can't do 10 meters, but nobody really does anyway. And also then through our website and through your website and the information on your website, you will be able to find different information about the amounts of bending that the cable can have, and also to do with cable routing. So cable routing becomes important for this type of cable, because if you route the cable or run the cable across noisy components, basically you're going to grab in lots of noise and it'll become a nightmare. So, you know, just reach out to your local Taoglas office and we can guide you through all of that once you've already bought the antenna on the Digi antenna builder.
Yeah, fantastic. Sounds like a really simple, you know, sort of one-stop solution.
Simple. It is very quick. Everything ships within 24 hours, and you know, it has been a game changer since we launched it.
Yeah. And you've probably mentioned some of these points already, but how does the platform really change how sort of device OEMs, enterprises and public safety organisations order their antennas?
So I would say just again speed and customization. Also it means that for small prototype runs, they don't need to worry about lead times, to be honest. And we all know in the industry at the moment lead times are a bit of a nightmare. Probably a good time to actually say we do not have any lead time issues. To be honest, we're happy to let the market know that. And again, just simply the fact that it ships within Europe within 24 hours is a huge aid to anyone designing a product at the moment.
Yeah, definitely, fantastic. So what benefits does this platform bring to those looking to get access to custom antenna designs?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, we have about 700 plus standard products. So we almost have any standard antenna that can fit into any product, and it does help with the customers to use standard antennas insofar as it makes the design cycle quicker.
Yeah.
However, obviously there are an infinite number of designs that a person can do, and we cannot guess or second guess everything that's going to come up. So we do also do a large amount of of custom designs. So the way, as I explained earlier, we have 3 offices in the US, we have 3 offices in Europe, and we also have a factory and 2 offices in Asia. Each of those locations is a full R&D lab. So that means we have 10 chambers across the company, and the engineering support for custom designs is all done within your region, within your time zone, and essentially within the same culture, so to speak. You know, so Europe, it's mostly managed from Ireland, and that means then that everyone is on the same time zone. We all speak in the same language, if you like, and also the US is similar. China, Taiwan, Asia is also the same.
Yeah.
So the technical support being located close to the customer is of extreme importance.
Yeah, definitely, very beneficial. And what common pain points typically associated with custom designs and ordering does this new system eliminate?
I would say that the pain points for custom design essentially all revolve around size. So the pain points that would eliminate is also through communicating all of the data and all of the testing that we have done. For example, the GNSS antennas, we have also done a huge amount of field testing. So a lot of people, you know, talk about simulation in the RF world. Some companies are just sort of offering simulation left, right, and center, but at the end of the day, simulation is not the real world. So with RF, you actually always have to test something physically. So again, by having the R&D centers located close to the customers, we're able to get their products, we're able to test them in one of our chambers, which is a controlled environment, and then for the GNSS antennas, we're able to then also test them in the field and show actual data live out in the field. Yeah. And in our spec sheets again, which are extremely clear and extremely scientific, you will see the different modules that we have tested these antennas with. And you know, you can't really do much more than that, to be honest, to set the customer on the safest path that they may have. Yeah. Now, do the customers always read them? I don't know, but the information is certainly there to be read. So.
You can't control that part.
Exactly.
Okay, so finally, what benefits does partnering with Digikey on this initiative bring to the end user?
Yes, I think we all know that Digi-key is a huge window to the world. We have some beautiful windows beside us here, actually, as we speak. So, you know, it gives us a huge platform. We've had a very long-term partnership with Digi-key. We're extremely excited to bring the cable builder to the market with Digi-key, and you know, it's just so simple to use, and there's so much different choice and so much different explanation on the website. I think it's the amount of information that Digi-key provides and the amount of information that Taoglas provides essentially shows that the 2 companies are on the same page, if you will, and it's just go all the way.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic partnership. Well, Thank you very much for your insights today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Cool. Thanks very much, Paige.
Thank you.
Nice one.
Nice to meet you.